Andy Roddick sat behind a microphone this month and made the case for Alexandra Eala without once arguing that she is a great tennis player. Coco Gauff was asked about her in the same stretch of days, so was Naomi Osaka, so was Jessica Pegula, who had just lost a final to her. Four of the biggest voices in the sport, one name between them and barely a word about her forehand. Watch parties, in arenas, back home in the Philippines for a fourth-round match. This is the week the Eala story stopped being about a player and became a story about an audience, and those are two completely different assets. The sport has started pricing the second one out loud. Roddick did it on his own podcast, and what he said was less a compliment than a valuation. Everyone in tennis should be cheering for her, right? He said. Then he explained why, and the why is the part that stings. If we could bring hundreds of millions of people because she's playing, well, then I'm going to cheer for that because it's better for tennis. Read that again. Not because she is good, because she brings hundreds of millions of people. He went further. Not all impacts are the same with players. Eala winning a slam is more than someone else winning a slam. And later, we're lucky in tennis to have her. A Hall of Famer and former U.S. Open champion saying the same trophy is worth more in her hands than in someone else's. The quiet part at full volume. Before we get to what Gauff and Osaka said and their answers are the real tell, you need the piece almost every version of this story skips. Roddick was not being sentimental, he was doing arithmetic, and the arithmetic has a deadline on it of about 3 weeks. Here's what he actually said. She's sneaky. We're talking 4 spots away from being seeded in the top 16. And then this. Can we put up a couple of results in Canada and Cincinnati and sneak inside that top 16 where a 4th round is expected and not a surprise to anyone? 4 spots, Canada and Cincinnati, that is the whole video. Eala is world number 20. The U.S. Open main draw holds 128 players, and 32 of them are seeded. Being seeded at all is already worth something because a seed cannot be drawn against another seed in the first round or the second. The top 16 is a different thing entirely, and the difference lands in the 3rd round. Every seed gets a small section of the sheet to themselves, so rounds 1 and 2 are unseeded opponents. Round 3 is where seeds finally collide, and the pairing is not random. A player seeded 17 to 32 meets a top 16 seed. That is the trap. If Eala walks into New York seeded 19th, her 3rd round is not a coin flip. It is an appointment with a Gauff, a Sabalenka, a Swiatek, whoever the sheet hands her. Move her 4 places up and the arrow reverses. Now she's the top 16 seed, and the player walking on court in the 3rd round is the one ranked 17 to 32. Same round, same draw, opposite side of the transaction. She does not meet a top 8 player until the 4th round, by which point she is already in the 2nd week. That is exactly what Roddick means by a 4th round that is expected and not a surprise to anyone. He is not predicting she plays better inside the top 16. The draw does the work for her. One thing seeding cannot buy her, though. A seed only keeps seeds apart for 2 rounds. Stay at 19 and the top 16 seed waiting in the 3rd round could be a former champion, and Osaka at world number 13 is exactly that problem. The case for those 4 spots is not sentiment either. Look at the fortnight that got her here. In Washington, she beat Zheng Qinwen, an Olympic champion. She beat Leylah Fernandez, the defending champion. In the quarterfinal, Elina Svitolina, the world number 10. In the semifinal, Naomi Osaka. Then rain and lightning shoved the final onto a Monday with Pegula a set-up and the 2nd set on serve, and Eala came back through all of it to win 4-6, 6-4, 6-love. Pegula was the world number 3 in the top seed. The last set was a bagel. It made Eala the first player from the Philippines to win a WTA Tour singles title. Her ranking moved from 28 to 20, a career high. Against top 10 players, she now stands at 9 wins and 4 losses, 7 of those wins this season, level with Roddick and Svitolina at the top of the tour. She has already started the Canadian half of Roddick's plan. Bite into the 2nd round in Toronto, she came through Alicia Parks 6-1, 4-6, 6-2, avenging an Australian Open loss from January. Katie McNally is next. Now the answers. This is where it gets uncomfortable because Gauff and Osaka were not asked to rate her game, they were asked about her crowd. Gauff has the longest exposure to it. She has played Eala twice this year, winning in Dubai in February, then retiring at Indian Wells in March with a left arm injury while trailing 6-2. 2-love. In Dubai, she was the favorite and the away team. She took the microphone afterwards and said this to a stadium that had spent the match cheering against her. "I'd like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate it. I think it's great." She has kept saying it since. Eala opens up new eyes, Gauff said, and one player can really bridge the gap between like a sport and a nation that maybe hadn't had that representation before. Osaka's answer is quieter and the more revealing of the two. Before their Washington semifinal, she was asked what she made of it. "I remember watching one of her matches last year at the US Open and it was kind of mind-blowing. I didn't think tennis could have an atmosphere like that. It almost felt more like a basketball game." A four-time major champion who has heard everything a tennis stadium can do, describing a crowd she found genuinely unfamiliar. And then Pegula, who lost the final and collected the strangest consolation prize in the sport. Her podcast, The Player's Box, went into that Monday with around 23,000 subscribers. Filipino fans watched their player beat her, then subscribed to the loser's show. It now sits above 34,000. "Filipino fans are insane," Pegula said. "We were getting, I don't know how many we ended up with, but we definitely got like 4,000 or 5,000 more subscribers after that match." On court holding the runner-up plate, she told them, "You guys are still helping grow tennis around the world." So here is the verdict, and it is colder than the highlight reels. Nobody in that group is lying. Gauff means it. Osaka means it. Pegula means it. Roddick means it most of all. But notice what every one of them is actually measuring. Roddick counts people. Gauff counts a demographic. Pegula counts subscribers. The sport has looked at Alexandra Eala and quietly decided the most interesting number attached to her is not her ranking. Which is why the next 3 weeks matter more than the trophy did. A market can be founded on a title. It cannot survive a first weekend exit repeated 4 times a year because attention that arrives for a phenomenon leaves for exactly the same reason. Roddick's 4 spots were never about her legacy. They are about buying her enough second Sundays for the watch parties to harden into a habit. Tennis has worked out what she is worth. Toronto and Cincinnati decide whether it ever gets to collect. She was never just carrying a racket, she has been carrying a crowd.